When you're looking to create a new website or refresh and update an existing website, having the right partner in a developer and designer is critically important. So in this video, we're going to go through some tips on how to find the right fit and choose the best web developer or web designer. Now, when it comes time to start selecting a website designer or developer, either to build a brand new site or to refresh and relaunch an existing one, to start off with, before you even start interviewing folks, it's important to start getting really clear on what you're looking for. Now, you don't need to get down into the weeds as far as exact text or what type of platform you want to use or those sorts of things. But at a high level, you want to think about what kind of site do you need? Do you need e-commerce, for example? Do you need a database? What should the calls to action be? Are you trying to sell something? Are you trying to get folks to sign up for a newsletter, to share posts on social media, to get in touch in some sort of way? And then do you have example websites? Like, is there a competitor or other website you've seen that you like the look and feel of and you'd like to replicate that on your own website? Having a general sense of the direction you want to go as far as aesthetics and functionality will go a long way in having the right conversation with potential developers and make sure you're finding a really good fit. So with that said, let's get into more specific questions to ask once you're actually interviewing potential developers and designers. Okay, so let's assume you found some possible candidates who could be a good fit to be a web designer or developer to help you out with their project. When it comes time for that first phone conversation or video call or meeting, there are a couple questions you want to ask and certain things you want to look for. And the first thing, probably obviously, you might have gleaned this from their website, is asking that designer or developer what their sweet spot is. You want to get a good sense of what they usually work on and who they usually work with and see if that jives with who you are and what you're looking for. For example, if you need e-commerce and they're not used to building online stores, that's a red flag, obviously. Or if they usually work with big enterprise level clients and you're a small startup, might not be a best fit, or vice versa. So as long as they've got the right skill set and have built sites for similar types of companies, that's a really good thing. Now, something you might be wondering is it important for a potential designer or developer to have experience in your specific industry? Not necessarily. As a general rule of thumb, I'd say if your industry has specific regulations or rules that are really important, like say, for example, healthcare or the financial industries, those are probably important things to look for, because your developer or designer will know what to look for and can avoid some red flags. But if it's something that's not specifically niche, doesn't require certain rules or regulations or certain types of technology, probably not as much. So for example, if you have a consultancy business where you give advice to shoe stores and your web designer hasn't developed a website specifically for that niche, probably okay, as long as they have other examples of websites that you like and that resonate with you. The next question to ask a potential designer or developer is, what languages or what platforms do you work on? You want to get a sense of how this person or team or agency builds websites. Do they build stuff from scratch out of code, or do they use a content management system like WordPress or Shopify, for example? Now, what you're looking for ideally is, one, something that's going to do the job and actually functionally have a site that's going to work for you. But you also want to have something that once the site's live, that you and your team can easily update yourselves. What you want to avoid is using a website that has custom code or uses some sort of proprietary software or content management system, which basically is going to get you locked in with that developer. And granted, no one's going to start a relationship with a developer or designer if there's not a trust factor there, but things can change. So you really want to make sure that your developer is building your website on a platform that's reputable, that you can use long term, and if things go awry and you find out you're not the right fit with that developer, that it's widely enough used that other developers can hop in and make changes as well. And there's a lot of content management systems that are really popular. WordPress and Shopify aren't by any means the only ones, but those are ones you're going to hear a lot about. Now, if the developer you're considering says they use WordPress, for example, that's generally a good thing. There are lots of content management systems out there. A lot are very, very good, but WordPress is by far the most popular, widely used content management system. There's a stat that like 40% of the world's websites are built on WordPress. Very popular, very good platform overall. A lot of people that support it, a lot of people that can help out with changes down the road if need be. That said, if that's the case, one follow-up question to ask, just to be aware of, is asking that developer or designer, how do you build websites in WordPress? The reason is there's a couple different ways that you can build a website in WordPress, and we'll try to not get in the weeds too much with this one. One way, the good old-fashioned way, so to speak, is using the built-in content management system in WordPress and grabbing a theme or a template or a skin from the store. So basically in WordPress, you can go through the repository of pre-made skins or designs or themes, choose a look and feel you like, and then drop your content into that. That's a really common approach. A benefit is you can save some time and costs by using a pre-made template. And within the WordPress store, you can see ratings and reviews and things like that to make sure you're getting a good one. That's a good approach. It's often widely used for lower cost agencies as a way to kind of expedite the process and not have to do a lot of design work. So that could be a fit for you, but a downside though is that oftentimes you'll get a more out-of-the-box, off-the-shelf look and feel as well, which could be fine if you find the right theme, but just something to be aware of. Conversely, WordPress also allows the option for developers to build their own themes or their own skins using PHP, which is a coding language. That also is another viable route, but there are some pros or cons. On the plus side, it could allow for some more customization, but that in turn could increase costs. And as a downside, you don't necessarily know going in how good that code is going to be, how well it will be built. So you're really going out on a limb, trusting that developer to make sure that they're going to do a really good job. And that's compared to picking out a theme or a template from the WordPress store where there are lots of reviews and ratings from other users. So those are two options. I'm going to throw a third out there, which is what Buddy does as well. So Buddy, along with other developers also, can use what's called a page builder, like Elementor or Divi, for example, which are two of the most popular page builders in WordPress. What those do is a page builder is an add-on on top of WordPress that makes it really easy to efficiently build really nice custom-looking websites. So from a user perspective, you still update and use your website the same way no matter what approach you take, whether it's through a page builder or through the kind of good old-fashioned way. But what it allows developers to do is build you a more custom-looking site really efficiently at a higher level aesthetically usually as well. So just some things to be aware of, and ask your developer just so you have a good sense of what direction they're heading, because that will influence kind of what to look for, what to be aware of, and then longer term, how you'll go about updating your site down the road as well. The next thing to ask your developer, and this should be a no-brainer of course, is can you share some examples? So what you're looking for in the examples that your developer would share with you is, one, do they look really nice? Would you be really proud to have a site of similar quality to the examples that he or she are sharing with you? Behind the scenes, some more technical things to look for are, is it fast? Do the pages load really fast, or are you waiting around? Is the user interface really easy to navigate? Does it make sense? Is it mobile friendly? Be sure to check out the examples on your phone or on your tablet as well. Basically, if your developer can give you some examples of sites they built before and you like the way they look, you like the way they function, chances are if you're looking for something similar, they can do a really good job for you as well. The next thing to be sure to ask is, what does your process look like? Now, an experienced designer and developer has been through this process lots of times and should have a very well-oiled, streamlined process for building websites. And it should be really clear to you what to expect, what timelines are, where you'll have the chance to check out the work in progress, add feedback, those sorts of things. So basically, this is your chance to get a sense of, does this person have their act together? Have they been through this before? And does it seem organized and stress-free to the greatest extent possible? So typically with a website build, the process will start with some sort of kickoff or some sort of project initiation, where you'll go through the goals for your website build. You'll talk about the way you want to look and feel, what functionality you need. You'll share things like photos or logos with the designer. If you need to give them access to your hosting, you'll take care of that. That's usually part of that kickoff process. From there, then, usually what you can expect from a designer or developer is a bit of an iterative process where the designer or developer will work on a first mock-up that's shared with you, get your feedback, bake that feedback into version number 2, and so on and so forth through the process where you're designing and then building and then ultimately testing the website and going live with it. Once the website's live, it's yours and you should definitely get the keys to the kingdom. You want to make sure you have the ability to update your website by yourself, that you've gotten the right training, the right documentation, the right login, the passwords to do that by yourself as well. So hopefully as you're talking through that question with the person you're considering for design and development, they'll be able to really clearly talk you through what to expect, what timelines are, what to expect for communication, all those sorts of things as well. The next thing to ask is, what would you be responsible for as part of the project and part of that process? An experienced developer and designer should know right away what things they'll need from you to make things successful. So for example, what types of images, what sorts of logos, any videos, any access to different technologies. They'll also be able to tell you at what points in the process will you need feedback or input or things like that also. So be really, really clear, because this definitely is a collaborative process that the developer or designer knows what they'll need from you, and you can plan accordingly, both mentally, workload-wise, and timing-wise as well. The next question you should be sure to ask is, what is your quality assurance or what does your testing process look like? Now, an experienced developer should have a really robust, really thorough, and good process for testing and optimizing websites. So some things you want to ask about and look for and listen for are, do they do testing as far as debugging? Have they gone through, tested all the functionality, make sure it works correctly? Have they gone through and done a speed test? Does everything load fast? Have they tested for accessibility? Is it usable and easy to use regardless of what your visual abilities are? And those are things like contrast and fonts and things like that. Next, you want to have them test for mobile responsiveness. They test on different browsers and different devices to make sure that no matter how someone is going to be looking at their website, it still pulls up correctly as well. And even little granular things you can ask about is, do people test the website just with a mouse, or do they do keyboard testing as well, which is a whole nother methodology of making sure that you can not just access the website and interact with it with a mouse, but also you can tab through different buttons and use it that way as well. So again, what you're looking for when it comes to quality assurance and testing is, do they have a robust, well thought out, well organized plan for making sure your website functions correctly in any sort of scenario that you could imagine. Next up, be sure you ask your developer or designer what they do in regards to SEO, or search engine optimization. This is super important to make sure your website gets found on Google or other search engines. So bottom line, this is a really deep rabbit hole with a lot of different aspects, and it's always evolving as well, but there should be a game plan. So your developer should make sure your website loads fast, make sure it's mobile responsive, make sure they use the correct tags in the HTML code, like calling out headers, using alt tags for images, things like that. If you're using a website builder like WordPress, there are plugins such as Yoast, for example, that can be installed and set up. Then also things like submitting your sitemap to Google and other tools and techniques will help make sure your site is teed up for SEO. Now, something else to keep in mind that's really important is the actual content. So be sure to be clear with your developer and ask, will they be developing the content and doing keyword research? Or is that something that you will be responsible for as far as making sure your website is optimized content-wise for SEO? So are you going to write the content, or are they going to help you out with that? Next question, what sort of support do you offer once the website's live? So once the website goes live, there should be some sort of handoff process where the developer or designer does a training with you to make sure you know how to update your website, how to make basic changes, and how to do routine maintenance for your website also. But you want to ask about, one, bugs. So if there's anything that wasn't caught during the development process, how is that resolved? Just because you want to be as thorough as possible before the site goes live, but if anything's missed, will they take care of that, and how does that process work? And then maintenance also. What happens if there are things that need to be fixed on the road, if you need updates, things of that nature. Now, a lot of developers will offer what's called a maintenance package or maintenance plan, and usually that takes the form of some sort of monthly fee that includes backups or speed testing, maybe some amount of hours of work for updates, things like that. Before you sign any sort of maintenance agreement, one piece of advice I'd give you is be really careful about signing that up front. I think personally speaking, what I would suggest is go through the website build process first before you sign up for any sort of maintenance plan and get locked in, because you want to get a sense of, do you like this person? Do you trust them? And typically, this might just be a personal thing, but once a website's live, if there are updates, you want to know, what does that look like? What's the workload involved? Are there things you can manage yourself? Or are they of the complexity, or do they necessitate somebody else's help as well? So when it comes to maintenance plans and help after the fact, definitely important to be really clear on what level of support they offer. Where I'd encourage caution is just signing the dotted line and getting locked into any sort of contract without first getting a sense of what the developer is all about, how they are to work with, and what exactly are they offering with their maintenance package. The next thing to ask about is hosting. So when it comes to the website, hosting is where the files are stored so that when you type in your website's address, those files are pulled up correctly and actually display your website. So there are some developers that will offer as part of a package hosting. So they'll say, hey, I can do hosting for you. Typically what this means is they either have their own servers where they would keep the files and then bring them up when people look for your website, or they're a reseller. So basically they're offering some other companies hosting services as a middleman or for commission or something like that also. This might be a personal thing, but I would definitely urge caution as far as doing hosting through your developer. And the reason is you have more control and can save money by just doing it yourself. And it's not that complicated. You might not have the comfort level to go behind the scenes and set up hosting yourself, but you don't need to. Basically, what you can do is there are a lot of reputable hosting providers out there. GoDaddy is probably one of the best known, maybe not the best, but probably the best known. But also Bluehost, WP Engine is one we recommend a lot, as well as SiteGround. All you need to do for hosting is find a good host, sign up online, and process your credit card. From there, you can give your developer access to your hosting. They can build the site, they can put in your server and get it up and live. You don't need to get locked in to a hosting contract with a developer, especially not up front until you work with them and know you trust them and want to maintain that relationship with them for several years. Because changing hosts, once you've got that set, is kind of difficult. So be really cautious about hosting. Make sure you're going to set up your hosting with a provider you trust, and don't get locked into long-term contracts without first knowing what you're getting into. One real quick thing to ask about too is, once the site's developed, who owns it? Now, in most cases, the answer is super obvious, and that should be you as the client own the website. I have seen a few situations though where the payment and terms are structured in a way where a developer will build the website for you to your custom specs, but then it's structured kind of like a lease agreement where maybe there's low or no upfront cost, but then you pay monthly to use that website. The thing is, you're then locked into a contract for who knows how long. So before you sign up for this sort of lease agreement where the developer owns the site, make sure that makes sense financially, make sure it's not some sort of hidden fees or things like that. Just really proceed with caution. It's not unheard of, but probably not the norm as well. So just want to call that out for you. So last question, how does billing work? So something really common in building websites is a structure where it's like half up front, half paid when the website's done. But of course, there are all sorts of different iterations. At Buddy, we usually map out projects and ask for a third up front, a third at the midpoint, and a third when the projects are done as well. But you could also do hourly billing if the project is more complex or will take a while. Maybe there'd be monthly billing or something like that. Also, some people charge hourly. Where it offers some caution on the hourly rate is making sure that it gets capped so it doesn't go out of control. So ask for a not to exceed quote or something like that. For me personally, it might be a personal thing, but I always like to know what I'm signing up for from the start. So probably more commonly what you're going to see and what you want to look for is a fixed price quote where you know exactly what the developer is offering, what the specs are, what they're building, what the QA entails, follow-up, those sort of things, and what the bottom line price is going to be. That way you can feel good about what you're getting and what you're paying from the start. So finally, to wrap things up, the last thing to mention, and this isn't a question per se, but something really important to think about and look for when you're choosing a web designer or developer is just that internal gut check. Do you like this person? Do you trust this person? Do you feel like you can work with them, not just over the course of the design project of building out the website, but long term? Do you trust them that they're going to be there for you? They'll answer questions, offer support. If there are future updates, can I help with those? That sort of thing. And a good way to double check your gut feeling is look for reviews online. A good developer who's been around for a while should have reviews online, testimonials, other people who can vouch for their services also. Again, because building a website isn't just that several week or several month long process, it's a long-term partnership ideally. So you got to make sure it's someone you feel like you can work with and trust. So I hope this has been helpful, some different questions to ask potential developers and designers, as well as some things to look for. If we can be a resource for you at all, either elaborating on some of the things we talked about in this video, or if you have a website project you're considering and might want some help on, feel free to get in touch and let us know. We're happy to chat. No pressure, no obligation. If you'd like to learn more about our team, Buddy Web Design and Development, you can learn more about us on our website at www.buddywd.com. And on our website, if you'd like to get in touch, you can just click on the button in the upper right-hand corner, answer a few basic questions, and we'll follow up with you ASAP. So again, hope this has been helpful. Thanks for watching, and talk to you again soon.